Harry's Wife, Part 105.2.2. The Sussex series, She Dumps, Harry Has a Breakdown. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, continuing to provide to you a fascinating, hypothetical analysis of where the relationship between the Sussexes may end up, utilizing my extensive knowledge of narcissism. As I have explained, by realizing that a narcissist is in the mix, so to speak, this provides us with the opportunity, knowing the way that the dynamic acts between narcissist and a victim, to make some predictions about where that relationship will end up. In this section, I'm considering the scenario where she disengages from Harry, i.e. she dumps him. And as I explained in the previous video, I see three potential triggers. Harry has a breakdown. He becomes too difficult to control. She swaps him for someone else. And in this video, we are going to examine the scenario where she disengages because he has a breakdown. What will that look like? As I explained previously, with regard to Harry, there are two potential forms of breakdown that could occur. The first is that he basically has a physical and mental breakdown and is more or less unable to function. The second is he breaks down in terms of usefulness to her. Let's consider the former first. If Harry were to have some kind of mental or physical breakdown, where the pressure of being married to Harry's wife and being on the receiving end of her abuse, and of course the consequential impact that it has upon his relationships becomes too much, what will occur? When the intimate partner primary source to a narcissist fails to function, you're like a faulty washing machine or a broken down television. Remember, because we have no emotional empathy, we just see you as objects, i.e. appliances, in terms of what is it that you can do for us. How easy are you to control? How good is your fuel? What character traits can you provide us with? And of course those all-important residual benefits. When you switch on your television, you expect it to come on promptly and to provide you with a number of channels that you can watch. You don't expect your television set to say, "I'm not showing you anything," or "Wait, I'm doing something else before I can show you anything," or "I'm only going to offer you one channel to view." That is unacceptable. Of course, because a television is an inanimate object, you don't expect such problems with it. But where your television malfunctions, and eventually they will do because of built-in obsolescence, you may send it to be repaired, but more usually you get rid of it and buy a new one. And that is what the narcissist does. Where a person fails to function, then they will be disengaged from. We don't wait around for you to be repaired. We haven't got time for that. Of course, if you break down and then get better, uncannily enough, we may well swoop again, but that's a topic for another video. But because we regard you as an inanimate object, when you malfunction, that's not acceptable. We don't see you as a human being that isn't there to attend to our every whim and carry out our every function. We see you like a toaster, a washing machine, a television set. And if you'd like to understand more about that narcissistic perspective, I would encourage you to watch my video, "We Regard You as a Toaster." Accordingly, Harry has become unwell. He's broken down. His head's in bits. He isn't looking after himself. He's not particularly communicative. He becomes withdrawn. Long periods just staring out of the window. He's lost an interest in life. Whatever form it might take, he has broken down. What will then happen? Well, Harry's wife will have him shipped out of the family home. She will call for an ambulance or discreetly arrange for a private mental health facility to take Harry away. Even if he attempts to protest, those protests will fall on deaf ears because she will convincingly cause the service providers to believe that he needs help, and of course prima facie there is evidence that he does. But also she will dole out some false compassion telling him that she really cares about him, that this is what is best for him, that he needs to be looked after, and that he will get better. She will, of course, convince the providers, exaggerating the extent of his symptoms, falsifying them, or believing them to be true, of course, but woven into her narcissistic narrative. Accordingly, he will then be shipped out. I see it as most likely that if this occurs, it will be to some kind of private mental health facility, where it's done discreetly. But she gets him out of the way. There is the possibility that his family might realise that he's unwell and that he's removed to the United Kingdom, but I see that as less likely. Harry's wife, of course, gives the impression of caring, but what she's actually done is she's moved him out of the way, and thus has also ended the relationship. She won't have told him this. She sees no need to. Indeed, for the purposes of facade management, she hasn't told anybody that it's over, bar an inner cabal of advisors. At this juncture, she will keep matters private. She will likely bring her mother in as a non-intimate partner primary source under the auspices of helping out with the children and providing her with support at this difficult time when Harry is unwell. Naturally, of course, it's all about her suffering because her husband, or my husband, isn't well, and this is having such an impact upon me. She will not be broadcasting this to the general public, but rather behind the scenes, to family and to friends, she will be portraying herself as the martyr. I did so much to try and help him, but at the end of the day, it's clearly become too much as a consequence of the way that his family have treated him. He wanted to continue to have a good relationship with him, but as you saw the way they treated us at the funeral, it couldn't happen. And I've done my best to protect him and shield him from all of this, but in the end it became too much for him. He's always had some problems with his mental health, and his uncaring Nazi-like family have only added to the pressures, tipping him over the edge. Of course, we all know that it's her behaviour that has largely done this, but of course she can't see this, and therefore will not say as such. Instead, the blame shifting for his breakdown will be directed to other people, most notably his family. They will be portrayed as cold, uncaring, unfeeling, nasty, conniving, and thus they are duly smeared to her family and to her friends, who will undoubtedly agree, affording her a sense of control over both Prince Harry and his extended family. Mother comes in and fulfills the role of non-intimate partner primary source. And, while he's out of the way, having already determined that that's the end of the relationship, because the narcissism will have decreed he's of no use to you. Whilst he's easy to control, because he's just staring out of the window and will be responding yes or no to what you're stating, the fact is his fuel provision has dropped, because he's barely communicative. He's withdrawn, he's gone into his shell. Character traits have lost their shine, at ditto residual benefits. And basically, in the same way that a broken down washing machine is no use to us, a broken down intimate partner primary source is no use to us, and therefore you have to be shipped out. While he's out of the way and she maintains the caring appearance to those on the inside, she'll be consulting lawyers and PR people for the purposes of instigating divorce, but will be doing so under the auspices of a mutually agreed separation that's what's best for all of them. She will portray it as doing what's right to care for him, to release him from the torment of what his family have imposed, of course, having no consideration or culpability for her own involvement in this. Too broken, Harry will likely accept all of this. And whilst it's portrayed by her as a mutually agreed separation, it isn't. She's getting rid of him and she's disengaged, but her narcissism is guiding her to dress it up as if them agreeing to part. Terms will then be agreed, but it's all her doing under the facade management. And then she will focus on his replacement, having asserted control over him. Harry, broken both by what has happened to him and the demise of the relationship, won't be in a position to fight back. Notwithstanding the support that he might receive, he just wants to get it over and done with. Weakened by what has happened to him, potentially at the point of considering taking his own life, Harry just wants to put it all behind him, and basically with a dismissive wave of the hand takes the view of whatever she wants. Whilst he might have wanted the relationship to continue, she doesn't, and he hasn't got the fight in him to try and persuade her to the contrary. He agrees to terms. Of course, to some extent, his family will step in so that he's not completely shafted, but the fact is, all round, it will be portrayed as a separation agreement between the two of them to save face, to disguise the fact that he's a broken individual, and to disguise the fact that actually it's her doing. Accordingly, that will all be thrashed out behind the scenes, and then an announcement will be made. There might be the fact of saying that he's got some unrelated health issue that he's addressing, nothing to do with mental health. And she will then say that it's very sad, but it was for the best, that it had taken the toll on both of them, and they're now taking time to recover and heal. She has got rid of him, and she has done it in a way that makes it look like she's sad about it and she cared, but it was for the best. Furthermore, she will now be focused on getting a replacement for him. She has been able to assert control over him by putting him out of the way, and she continued to do that by staying in a position of withdrawal from him. It's unlikely that she'll have any need to hoover him. His fuel isn't as important because she'll be looking to get it elsewhere. With regard to character traits, it might be that she's retained some form of title, and therefore that's not an issue, and she would look to obtain new character traits from whoever she's pursuing. With the residual benefits, well, the facade of having managed this into a supposed appearance of it being mutually acceptable is to her benefit, and of course, the money situation is most important to her, and she'll be looking to somebody else to fulfill that role. But where Harry has a breakdown, basically she will manage him out under the auspices of caring, whilst actually cold-heartedly shafting him in terms of ending the relationship, and then making it look like they'd both agreed to it all. What about the scenario where, in effect, there's a breakdown, but his usefulness reduces? In this instance, it's possible that she will then, having recognised subconsciously that he's not fulfilling the prime aims, so for instance, whilst he's still easy enough to control and he's providing fuel, those character traits and residual benefits are nowhere near as shiny as they once were. It might be, for instance, that they've been stripped of their titles. It might be that Archie and Lilibet haven't been granted titles. It could be that the money's running out, and all of those things mean that he's not serving any useful purpose to her. In such instances, I don't see that Harry would necessarily leave the Monteshitshow mansion. He would be just trundling along thinking things are okay. And where she's made the decision to end the relationship and disengage, it's likely that she would be the one that would leave the property, most likely with the children, because he's not going to leave. What she's then likely to do is claim that he has been abusing her and seek an order, by way of a restraining order against him, and for him to be removed from the house, as she then instigates divorce proceedings. At the same time, she implements a PR campaign, Operation Domestic Victim, to try and garner money, public sympathy, and manage the facade. She therefore has disengaged from him, departed, but wants him out of the house. She will play the card of saying that it's where she and the children are familiar, where they feel safe, and that he should be moved out of the way. There's a good chance that she'll get her way in that regard, and he will have to quit the Monteshitshow mansion and set up in a bachelor pad elsewhere. However, notwithstanding the fact that she will then institute divorce proceedings and commence Operation Domestic Victim, playing the victim card extensively, Harry isn't going to buy this, and he'll fight back. Although he's broken down in the terms of not serving as great as usefulness as he once did, that doesn't mean that he's helpless. And indeed, in such circumstances, he'll seek assistance from his family. She's disengaged from him, divorce is on foot, but there will be a nasty public divorce, custody battle and PR battle. They will trade blows in that regard as he seeks to see his children, to cut the best terms in the divorce, which of course will threaten her sense of control. She will fight back, repeatedly painting him as an abuser, bleating and crying to whoever will listen. Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres, even James Corden, arsehole. And at the same time as she's playing the victim, she'll be looking around and casting her net for a new intimate partner primary source to replace him, whilst the ongoing divorce and custody battle rumbles on. That's how I see it panning out. If there was a breakdown with regard to Harry in terms of him physically or mentally breaking down, or his usefulness has been diminished. What about the scenario where he's too difficult to control? Join me in the next part for a fascinating analysis of that.